Stref, skobling, adoptionen och färden månaderna. Ekonomiskt, radio, provokation, skobling redan. Musirabadan, musirafrakusa, skobling sedlepa jammen, sejder och skobling, serostärlig närvaro, mattvård, serostärlig, slam, insukten, necession, söröljväl.
Marvel Studio just posted the biggest opening weekend in the history of the movie business with a film that is named after the story. Its own readers have spent 18 years calling it the worst thing that ever happened to Spider-Man. $360 million in 3 days. So the title was not a coincidence and it was not a mistake. Somebody chose it. Brand new fucking day. So here's what I want to show you, right? What brand new day actually refers to, and why a studio would name its biggest asset after a grudge, and what that record tells you about how this character gets a Red Bull roughly every 20 years, whether you like it or not. So Brand New Day is a comic book era that began in 2008. It exists because of the 4 issues published right before it. It's a story called One More Day. So the setup is Peter Parker had publicly taken off his mask during a big crossover event. So there were consequences, as there tend to be, and one of them was a sniper putting a bullet into Aunt May. So Peter is out of options. And then Mephisto shows up, which is Marvel's version of the devil, I guess. So he offers a trade, He says that he will save May's life and undo the unmasking, and in exchange, he takes Peter and Mary Jane's marriage out of history. He doesn't end it, he just removes it, and both of them agree. So they had been married since like 1987, something. So and he asked Marvel to take his name off the final 2 issues. He was talked out of it, and the editor-in-chief, Joe Quesada, ended up credited as a co-writer on the last issue. And he drew all 4. So Stratis later said that the core pieces, the demon, the erased marriage, the reset, were not his ideas. Readers have been kind of angry about this since the Wicked came out, and it is one of the very few comic decisions that people who quit comics still bring up. So now, before I go anywhere near a verdict on the other side, stated properly because it is stronger than the anger around it, his position was that Spider-Man works when Peter Parker's life does not, somehow. So that is not a mood, it's just a mechanism, right? The character runs on being late, being broke, and just, lying to somebody he loves and choosing wrong. So a married man with a stable apartment, it has already solved the problem that the character was built to have. So remove the problem and you have just a competent adult in a costume, which is a different character with the same face. So Quesada just thought that the marriage had quietly ended the engine, and that a publisher printing a monthly book has an obligation to keep the engine running, basically. So, and commercially, he was right. So the relaunch, it skipped 3 times a month and ran for years, and it sold. So the honest objection was never that Peter got a single again, right? It's most people did not care about the marriage that much. Nobody gave a fuck. So the objection was the method, and an editorial decision was made in a room, and then a demon was written into the book to handle the paperwork, basically. So keep that shape in mind. Because in December of 2021, Sony and Marvel end it again with a wizard. So No Way Home ends with Doctor Strange casting a spell that takes Peter Parker out of the memory of every person alive. Spider-Man stays. So and Peter does not, right? So his girlfriend does not know him. His best friend doesn't know him. So it's the same operation as 2008, but just kind of performed by a different magic user, and the movie is structured so you read as a sacrifice. So the comic took a marriage, and the movie took everything else. So Brand New Day picks up 4 years later inside this story. Aunt May is dead, and Ned and MJ went to school and got on with their lives. So Peter is alone in New York, he's working full-time, he's dealing with Scorpion, Tombstone, some ninjas, working alongside a police detective. Also running an assistant program that he wrote himself because, well, there is nobody to talk to. So at one point, he turns up and describes what he does as a small potatoes next to what the actual Avengers are handling. Like she has some fucking superpower or anything, but here's the part that nobody says out loud. That spell is not a tragedy, it's just an accounting document, right? So a Peter Parker that nobody remembers is a Peter Parker who does not need anybody else's movie. No dead billionaire mentor, no continuity to service, no cameo negotiated between two studios that split the character down the middle. So the wipe did not isolate Peter Parker, it just isolated the asset, if it makes sense. So look what that buys. Endgame needed 22 films of setup to open to like 357 million. And Brand New Day needed just one spell and a reported budget of 225 million. And it opened to 360. So it took 72 million in just Thursday previews. So before the thing had technically opened, watching a country turn a preview night into a national statistic is a strange experience from the outside. That is the number, and people applauded the number. So, and in the same week, the record landed. Sony's chairman said the quiet part. Asked about the spin-offs, Morbius, Madame Web, Craven. Tom Rotman said that the audience was not satisfied enough with them. That arguing about whether that is fair is just hauling into the wind, right? And that there is currently absolutely nothing else in the works. Years of trying to build a universe around a character that Sony could not actually put on screen, and the thing that finally broke the record was one movie where he has no friends. It's fucking crazy. So the production side is about as calm as you would expect. Cretton spent roughly a year attached to the Avengers films that no longer exist, right? So the one that became Doomsday under different directors. Then he got this instead. So production was pushed 6 months so that Tom Holland could go shoot the Odyssey for Christopher. And early draft argued over whether this should be a comic story or a street level one. Anyway, now the part I'm going to be smart about, if it's possible. So the emotional climax of his $225 million movie is a handshake. So Peter walks up to Ned in a bodega, and Ned does their old secret handshake without knowing why he's doing it. No fight, no speech. Jacob Batalon was asked about it afterwards, and instead of just saying it, he said, well, maybe it is just muscle memory, right? Maybe he only repeats the name because that is ending, and getting a studio to sign off on ending a summer temple with the hand gesture between two people, one of whom is not sure why he's doing it. It might be even harder than any of this swinging, right? So then the credit rolls, and after all of them, the last thing you see is Ned's Spider-Man tracker app pinging a location, and the location is space. So the reset lasts one film, 5 years, a memory spell, 4 years time skip, a dead hunt, written script. So a whole premise that is engineered around Peter Parker having nothing and nobody, and the final image before the lights come up is promised to undo all of it for the next crossover. So that is the entire business, right? Strip the character down to the version that sells, then sell the stripping down and restore the merchandise. And wait, 2008 used a demon, used two, and 2020 used a wizard, and then 2026 used a phone app. So the reset was never the setback in this story. The reset is the product. And the issue from 2008, the one people bought so they could be properly furious about it, started climbing on eBay the moment the movie title was announced. 18 years of grievance. He resold at a markup to the same people.
Skapar